I went to the Pimax Roadshow in Düsseldorf together with my podcast colleague Jan, and we were able to try the current Pimax Dream Air prototype. Calling it a prototype is actually an understatement. It was more of a DVT test unit, a later development stage focused on verifying the final design for mass production. In other words, an early pre-production model. We also got to check out the Crystal Super's Micro-OLED module. Hi, I'm Stefan, your VR accomplice. Don't forget to subscribe if you are into VR topics and VR hardware reviews. I've been running the German language channel Der for Accomplice for quite some time. This is my first English language video. Let's take a look at the Dream Air's technical specs according to Pimax. It uses Sony Micro-OLED displays with a resolution of 3840 by 3552 pixels per eye. The field of view is listed at around 110 degrees, achieved among other things by the new concave pancake lenses, which are intended to deliver a particularly wide and clear image. The bare headset is supposed to weigh under 170 grams, extremely light. Pimax also promises eye tracking, prepared for dynamic foveated rendering, plus hand tracking and either slam tracking or lighthouse tracking, depending on the setup. There will be 6 DOF controllers for the inside-out tracking version, an integrated audio solution has been announced and dual fans handle cooling. On the software side, as usual, it runs Pimax Play and the headset is planned to connect via split DisplayPort cable. So, those are the specs Pimax is currently promising. How much of this will make it into the final device remains to be seen, and how much is already there is what we can observe on this pre-production unit. First, a big thank you to Jan for helping both behind and in front of the camera, and of course thanks to Martin from Pimax for the insightful conversations and for running the demo. In person, the Dream Air looked much more understated in this development stage than in the official renders. The pre-production unit was completely black with a typical Pimax V on the front, in silver and not illuminated. For the final version, Pimax is planning a white housing and an illuminated logo, but based on community feedback, they are considering a black housing as well. That doesn't seem to be decided yet. In terms of build quality, you can tell it isn't a finished retail product. But the optical assembly already feels quite solid, nothing wobbly, nothing cheap. To me it felt a bit more compact and more premium in materials compared to the Crystal Super. When you put it on, the low weight is immediately noticeable. The Dream Air is really light. But it wasn't comfortable yet. The face pad was extremely thin and there was no proper nose pad or nose flap. It pressed rather strongly on my nose bridge. That's not unusual for early pre-production hardware, and I'm sure they will improve it. Even if it doesn't fit European faces perfectly out of the box, I'm confident third-party options will appear at the very least. The strap was improvised, a Valve Deluxe audio strap with headphones that weren't active. The final audio solution will have integrated headphones and a microphone. An additional USB-C input is planned to make using alternative headphones possible. Unlike the Crystal Super, the Dream Air is not modular at all. You will be able to swap things like the facepad, of course, but you can't change the faceplate, meaning you can't switch between lighthouse and inside-out tracking later. You choose one tracking model at purchase. Onto the heart of it, the image. And it was really strong. Super sharp, very high contrast, OLED colors, perfect blacks, naturally no visible pixel at this resolution, and no Mura. I talked to several people there, no one saw Mura. I also didn't notice any pronounced glare. Pimax developed concave pancake lenses for both the Dream Air and the Crystal Super's Micro-OLED module, and they are doing a really good job. During the demo, the field of view on the Dream Air was set to 112 degrees. That doesn't have to be the final FOV and varies with software configuration. Pimax will have to find a sweet spot that feels good while keeping the FOV as large as possible. They plan to let users choose between different software distortion profiles, which will directly affect perceived FOV. However, there was a distortion profile issue in the demo. According to Martin, each IPD range needs its own profile, and neither the Dream Air nor the Super module had an acceptable one for me. It was very tiring for my eyes to adapt, and every time I took the headset off, I felt slightly cross-eyed. There's still engineering work needed to dial in distortion profiles for the IPD ranges, so it works well for as many people as possible. In addition, the latest Dream Air firmware unfortunately introduced a bug. During the demo, it caused subtle yet clearly visible vertical lines in the image that could be triggered by certain headset or controller movements. That wasn't the case in an earlier firmware, so it's clearly a software issue, not hardware. Unfortunately, a firmware downgrade wasn't possible during the demo, according to Martin. This error did not occur on the Crystal Super Micro-OLED module, and the optical assemblies are technically the same. The sweet spot was pleasantly large. I found it immediately. At the edges I noticed slight blur and a bit of brightness fall off, but overall the image was bright enough. Just not quite as bright as a QLED panel. Due to another software issue, the Dream Air looked slightly dimmer than the Crystal Super's Micro-OLED module. The plan is to match this in the final firmware. In other words, make the Dream Air brighter. Eye tracking and auto IPD weren't installed in its pre-production unit yet. That will come in the final version, so I can't comment on it. It's supposed to use Tobii eye tracking, which has already proven itself in the Crystal line. Tracking ran on Lighthouse and it worked reliable in the demo. That's also what the first Dream Air units will ship with. That's great news for anyone using a Lighthouse tracking system. As mentioned, there will also be an inside-out variant with its own controllers. As for noise levels, the headset was whisper quiet. I didn't hear the fans and didn't feel any heat build-up. Very pleasant. You can see vent slots on the top and bottom of the Dream Air that obviously exhaust air and also help with good airflow inside. There are also power and volume buttons on the housing. Nothing more to explain there. The Dream Air prototype connected to the PC via DisplayPort and USB, just like the Crystal Super. That worked as expected. Familiar Pimax tech. The plan for the final product is a split cable that enters from the back to better balance the cable weight on such a light headset. That's still the plan for the retail design. What honestly surprised me the most was the faulty distortion profile. It caused noticeable eye strain. I didn't expect that. At the same time, this gave me a deeper understanding and insight into the technology and software engineering behind it. I was very glad I could talk to Martin from Pimax about it and that he explained it so well. I now understand the effort required to tune distortion profiles so they feel right for people. And I fully trust Pimax to get this under control. They have proven over the past years that they can. The biggest potential clearly lies in the combination of low weight, high sharpness and fantastic colors and blacks thanks to the Micro-OLED displays. In my opinion, the headset is clearly aimed at enthusiasts who want a high-quality PCVR headset with a modern form factor. As it stands now, it feels like the finish line is already inside, and I'm really curious to see how the final version will look and feel. As mentioned, I also tested the Crystal Super's Micro-OLED module on site. I've referenced it here and there. It delivered the same brilliant image as the Dream Air, but with a slightly wider field of view of 160 degrees using the current distortion profile. The IPD profile caused similar issues for me as on the Dream Air. Apart from that, excellent image. And for people who already own a Super, it's a great upgrade path to gain access to OLED. That was my first impression of the Pimax Dream Air and the first video on this channel. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any updates on the Dream Air and the Crystal Super. You'll find links to the Crystal Super and the Dream Air in the description. Using them supports me and my channel directly at no extra cost to you. I'm very excited to see how the headset develops, and of course, you will hear everything I can find out here on the channel. Alright then, see you next time.